term. So.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone.
Seat open or?
Last year?
This year.
I think there's two.
There's two with one person running?
Two with three people running. It's in your packet of stuff at your table. It's at your table.
Was he the only one that did the letter?
The last page of that.
All right, good evening, everyone. This is the March 24th meeting of the Rhinebeck Central School District Board of Education. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 10th, 2015 regular meeting?
So moved.
By Deirdre.
Second.
Second by Lisa. All those in favor? Or actually, are there any corrections or discussion? Okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous. That motion passes. We have an opportunity for public comment. Is there any members of the public that would wish to make a comment at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the 2015-16 budget development update.
Well, you see on your agendas that there's no asterisk at the end of that line, which means we didn't provide you with any information because we gave you a total data overload on Saturday, and we really didn't expect we would have anything, but we put it on the agenda for every meeting until we adopt the budget, just in case there's some late-breaking story from Albany, but unfortunately they're still squabbling. So unless there are questions that are holdovers from Saturday that you'd like to bring up, we have nothing new for you. We have, at your request, arranged for building principals to be present at the April 14th meeting, which is our next meeting after tonight. And really, for all intents and purposes, the last opportunity we have to discuss and update the budget before we vote on a proposed budget at the following Tuesday, April 21st. So after tonight, we have two more board meetings, one to discuss, the last one hopefully to adopt, although we could discuss before we adopt as well. But I would, as I mentioned Saturday, my goal is to walk out of our meeting on April 14th knowing what you want to see as a dollar figure budget, which we will bring to you on the following Tuesday. So no reason to belabor the point if there are no questions or it's no new information.
No new scuttlebutt.
It's not the 21st that we're adopting, right? It's the 20th.
We adopted on the 21st, which is the special meeting that we have set to also vote on the Boces budget and board members. We actually have, lucky you, we have 3 board meetings in the month of April, yeah. So there we are.
All right.
Some fun, huh?
Move on to principals' reports. Gentlemen?
Good evening, everyone. So a few things, one of the things I've been mentioning every time I do a report is I've mentioned the Boces survey, the bullying survey that we're doing. So we've worked through all of the formalities as far as the passive consent form to parents, adding our specific questions to the survey. And this week, actually all 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students, with the exception of about 6 across the grades that opted out, or whose parents opted them out, will take the survey. So we should get a very good amount of students involved in it, obviously the vast majority. And the hope is that possibly April 14th, I may have some data for you I'd like to share with you. If it's not in by then, just I'm not sure how that'll work with the break, I'll make sure that I obviously bring the data we receive as soon as I can the next time I'm able to meet with you and speak with you. And the BLPT will be meeting on April 20th. We should have it by then, I'm just not sure about the 14th. That's our next meeting, and the BLPT will go through all the data and start to set some short, long-term goals based on that information. So that's one of the, we were able to make that happen in the last couple of weeks. Some PE news. A while back I had mentioned to you about an initiative Mr. Yarnell and Mr. Etzen were putting together called Run Across America campaign. Basically it's a bi-weekly run for 5 minutes. All the students do it. They figured out that 20 laps around the gym is a mile. So in that 5 minutes, students can walk it, they can run it. And what those two gentlemen are doing is actually logging the mileage and then talking to students about not only where they are on like a United States map, for example, but also letting them know as a school how many calories they burned in doing that. So Currently, we have made it out to Columbus, Ohio on our map. We've logged a total of 750 miles, and total calories burned as a school, 75,330. Wow. So it's just a cool little initiative that I'll update you as I can. Those gentlemen have really, I want to commend them, just take a moment to do that, because they have really taken that concept of physical fitness to the next level. They've offered opportunities for staff to do things after school, before school. When they do which you approve, that morning enrichment program, very often they'll find dates to invite staff to come in that early and work with the kids. One of the things that's possibly in the works, Mr. Yarnella approached me last week wanting to know, and of course I said yes, wanting to know if we wanted to do like a can jam, staff against staff, maybe invite kids or get like staff and students to be teams and things like that. So I'm a big fan of can jam. So anyway, he's setting that up, and it is actually a small unit we do with all the students in the building. So anyway, really kind of taking that idea of physical education and making it bigger than just that, which I really just want to take opportunities.
We could always field a board ed team, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You're going to be our captain.
Next item, I wanted to.
I like the way he laughed.
The Rhinebeck Science Foundation and Mr. Wolford and Ms. Vaccarino for the STEM fair last night.
That's great.
We had about 25 students participate. Examples of some of the projects included some classics like crystal growth, the potato battery, which I think took like something like 12 potatoes or 11 potatoes. One of the coolest, simulated fog tornado in a controlled environment, which by the way went around, is starting to make its round to classes. Some of those students have actually represented them.
It's on tour.
Say again?
It's on tour.
Yeah, it's on tour. So today was in Mr. Morrissey's third grade class. And unfortunately I wasn't able to make it. It was at 1 o'clock, but I did go and talk to some of the students, and really impressive on how the students that put that together can explain exactly what they did without any coaching and things like that. So it was really great to just catch up with those students. But yeah, that's doing the tour around the building. We'll see where it might stop next. Also wanted to just let you know, as a result of some of the, I have mentioned in the past that I do, just recently this year, been lucky enough once a month to meet with a group of elementary school principals in Dutchess County. We meet at Boces for about an hour and a half in the morning. I'll be doing that actually this Thursday. The reason I mention is one of the things that have come out of those conversations is an interest by a few different districts, and I'll give you more info when I get it. I'll actually be nailing down some of those details on Thursday, of a few principals, teachers who want to come and visit our STEM lab at the elementary school. So we'll be sending something like that up probably like early May, mid-May. So I'm not sure what size the group will be, but I already worked it out with David as far as being available to do that. And so we'll figure out a date that works for him, obviously, and everyone else. But one of the things we're hoping to do is, in addition to having them come and view the environment, maybe get to see whatever grade actually is going through at that time, as far as the module is concerned, but free up David to sit with all of us and just kind of debrief. So I'll have more information about that. Want to let you know that our annual PTSO book fair and ice cream social, which happened on the 5th, happened the week of March 6th, a very good turnout. I also want to take an opportunity to just thank Rhinebeck PD. Last week they joined us. Pete Dunn and Ken Scattergood, one of our SROs, joined us for one of our 2 lockdown drills this year. Some great feedback, really kind of some minor stuff we want to put in place, little tweaks. We try to invite them every time we do it. And we'll be doing a second one probably a little bit later when the weather gets nicer, even though we don't go outside, which is that'll be the time frame. So I just wanted to thank them. Their input is crucial in making sure that those drills go as planned, and they're also integral parts of my safety team. So once we do our second drill, we'll bring the safety team together and start working on some of those things. Also wanted to mention the Music in Our Schools Month concert. There'll be a performance by the high school band, men's chorus and women's chorus on Wednesday, March 25th, tomorrow. And all K through 5 students are invited. Again, don't have too much info yet, but some upcoming events. Big one is Engineers Week. Sometime in May, we'll have 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th participate this year, so we're in the process of putting that together. And I know John will be presenting, I'm sure, about the Top Chef competition, but I just wanted to thank him for the invite. I was a judge for the first time. It was awesome. Great turnout, a lot of students, a lot more than I expected. And couldn't eat it all, man. I think we had 11 or 12. I was part of the entree group. It was like 11 or 12 entries. So anyway, you'll get more of that from John, but the highlights. With that, that's what's happening at Chancellor.
Great. Questions for Mr. King?
Oh, I had
Laura.
a quick question. Do you have an update about the, what are we calling it, health and wellness sort of night that you were going to do?
Yeah. Right now, they did have to tentatively reschedule, looking at late April. The team, there's a group of us that are actually just reaching out to the presenters, so once we get a confirmation from them, we'll get more information out, get a flyer out, and reschedule that. So we're definitely doing it again.
Great.
Reschedule.
Thank you.
And I'll just say again, we can field a team.
Say again?
Can field a team.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna let if I let
Sounds like a challenge to me.
if they speak to Yarnell, he's gonna be knocking on your
Right, guys? Right, guys?
Stop. I'll put the good word in.
7:30 in the morning.
Ready? Yeah, right.
I'll bring coffee. Yeah, exactly.
Take care of that start time.
Start working on an administrator's team too. Good evening, everyone. I am going to start out, as Mr. King pointed out, with just highlighting a couple of our annual events that we had this past month. The first being Top Chef. We held our Top Chef competition on March 2nd. This year we had 37 submissions, totaling, I believe, about 45 students. We had some multi-student teams, but that 37 submissions is by far the greatest number that we've had in the 6 years that we've done this. And I think the crowd that was there was evident, and I spoke a little bit at the end of the evening, and I said, by mistake, the custodial staff, as they were setting up for me, they pulled out all of the sections in one half of the bleachers, and that's typically not what we do. We pull one of the 3 sections out. Fortunate for me that they did, because they were filled. And I think for the very first time this year, we had students that actually came to watch their friends participate and weren't necessarily participating themselves. So that was very exciting. Again, there were 3 categories: desserts, entrees, and side dishes. Each year, the students really outdo themselves. As Brett said, he was part of the entrees, and the winning entree dish served an entire meal of lamb chops and caramelized carrots and couscous. It was a wonderful event. I always like to just publicly thank, as you know, we have a number of judges or chefs from local restaurants that serve as judges, and this year was no different. We had chefs from Terrapin, Rhinebeck Bagels, Le Petit Bistro, Calico Restaurants in Rhinebeck, Taste Buds in Red Hook, as well as a number of culinary institute grads, teachers, and administrators. Also, our judges this year included Larry Anthony, our new food service director, who was very excited about the event. His feedback was very positive. And the first thing that he came up and said to me when all was said and done that evening was, next year we're going to get some of these winning recipes into our kitchen and onto our lunch menu. And those of you that have been around for a while, since we started this 6 years ago, know that was kind of our pie in the sky, hope when we started this program, and we've never really been able to put it in place. So we're excited about that possibility. Last Friday, we held our triennial Artisan Action Day. This year, for whatever reason, seemed to be very difficult. We had a very difficult time developing a pool of presenters and getting enough people that were willing to come into and had the time to come in and share with our students. But through the hard work of our BLPT parent members, as well as a number of bulkly teachers and staff that stepped up and shared some of their talents with our students, we were able to pull it off. The day was a rousing success, and once again kind of reaffirms our the idea that these days are very valuable. Students seem to be very excited about it. As I believe I reported in my last report, Kathleen White served as our keynote speaker. She's a manager of the William Holman Gallery down in New York City. whose owner has ties to Rhinebeck and represents the estate of Olin Dowd. She gave a very inspirational speech, shared a lot of art with the students, and really gave a very inspirational speech about why art is important and, you know, how it exists all around us in many different careers. Following her address, students participated in small group presentations, a variety of subjects, including publishing, pottery, photography, theater, painting, and one of the highlights this year was the use of special effects software. We have an award-winning special effects person. I'm not really sure what that title is, who is a 6th grade parent, and basically his presentation over the course of 20 minutes was taking a very brief video of his daughter kind of walking across a room toward him and turning her into something out of The Walking Dead. And by the end of the 20 minutes, he had showed students all of this motion software and really changed her quite remarkably. A couple of, just reporting out on a couple of curricular happenings in classrooms. In 7th grade ELA classes, students have been working on their literature unit titled The Outsiders. This has become an annual unit, and again, those of you that have had students come through the middle school, you recall that at one time this was a controversial unit. And it was controversial because we asked students to select from 6 different titles and examine the common themes of bullying and social isolation through student-facilitated discussion in literature circles. We've found that this is proven to be very powerful. It's really sparked a lot of conversation at home. It's sparked a lot of positive conversation within the classrooms, within the grade level, and beyond, really, actually, as some of those discussions have taken place in other classes. But we're really asking students to connect with their own experiences and using that whole connection to pro-social skills across the entire grade level and the entire building. Another curricular connection, since the introduction of the Project Lead the Way Gateway to Technology curriculum in middle school, it's always been our intent to try to capture some of the projects and some of the labs that we're unable to fit into just due to lack of time into the technology curriculum as students progress through 7th and 8th grade, and we've been looking for ways to basically to branch out into the science classrooms. And so just recently, thanks to the collaboration of Kristen Coble and Brian McDonald, students have just completed a project from the Energy and the Environment module, during which they researched aerodynamics. They designed their own wind turbine blades, fabricated those wind turbine blades, and then the unit ended with a friendly competition as the groups competed against each other to measure the amperage that each of their designs produced. An update on a project I spoke about last month. The BMS Anthropology Club continues to work with local documentarian Seth Kramer on their documentary comparing students in their lives and sorts of activities that they engaged in outside of school years ago to today. I believe, as I reported last time, they were going to interview a number of lifetime Rhinebeck residents. They did so, quite a few as a matter of fact, as well as a number of parents of, in this case, families of 3, 4, 5 children, even who have raised several in the community over the course of the last 10 years or so. They're currently compiling all of that interview material. They did video interviews. They're compiling that material. They're going to edit it, and they're going to produce a documentary which they hope to present to the town board. I hate to bring this up, but just a very quick bullet. Preparations are underway as state testing begins shortly after we return from break. The ELA assessment will be administered April 15th to the 17th, and the math assessment will take place on April 22nd to the 24th. As always, with the support of the high school and Dr. Davenport, we'll take steps to create and ensure an optimal testing environment for our students. And finally, I wanted to end on this note as a sure sign that the winter is ending and spring is right around the corner. Modified sports teams began practicing just yesterday. So, thank you.
Questions for Mr. Kemitzer?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll start by saying that I'm up for any Can Jam team as long as somebody explains to me what Can Jam is. I'm all set. I wanted to start tonight with an update on our co-curricular extracurricular activities. I want to commend our student council for another pep rally. It went tremendously well. Students were energized, happy, so kudos to the student council. For the 8th year, with the cooperation of the Council on Addiction Prevention Education, we'll host team driving presentation for our students. It's going to take place on April 9th, and this features information from professionals in the legal profession, insurance profession, first responders, as well as victim impact statements. And we ask our students who have not attended yet to attend this in order to receive a parking permit. I have some updates from the BLPT. Several weeks ago, we sent a letter to all district families indicating our thoughts and plans regarding our plan to not record rank transcripts any longer. We received so far about a dozen responses. One was a disagreement with our position. The remaining responses were all in favor. 2 of the responses had some detailed, I'd say, procedural questions about how we would address certain situations in which a family may want rank to be shared with a college. So we're currently working with the guidance department to craft a response and a procedure to address those issues. We'll be in contact with those parents and still plan to implement this change beginning in the 2015 school year, 15-16 school year. In addition, the BLPT once again will host a welcome back barbecue for last year's graduates, probably to take place May 29th or thereabouts. As you recall, last year we piloted this barbecue. We had about 20 students come and join us and give us some feedback in terms of their experience after high school. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to build upon that number and get even more feedback regarding the efficacy of our school program. In the academic realm, in our English department, alumna Sarah Hetty, who's an author, a published poet, and a professional writer, came and spoke with our English classes about poetry, about writing, about her career. So it was a real treat and honor to have her spend time with our students. Our English department is looking at implementing for next year, I'll call it a writing lab, that will enable students who need extra help with their essays to receive it from one of our faculty members. So we're hopeful we'll be able to put that in place when students will be able to access it during a lunch period. Our current AV lab will do double duty as an AV lab for a couple periods of the day and a writing lab for the remaining periods of the day. In our math department, in a couple classes, faculty are piloting the use of internet resources to help provide instructions to students. Short little canned presentations of some algorithms, some problem-solving techniques, and looking ahead of thinking about, for certain units, flipping the classroom in the math department, which, as you recall, would indicate that students would receive instruction via an internet platform outside of the class, and in class have guided practice with their teachers. So they're exploring how that may benefit our students in math classes. In addition, the math department is reviewing and studying the use of Kagan structures. Kagan structures are step-by-step, very explicit instructions that support collaborative and cooperative learning in the classroom. I can give you one example of a Kagan structure is a think, pair, share technique, in which a teacher would say, turn to a neighbor, come up with 2 answers to this response, and be prepared to share one with the class. So there's a variety of those techniques which heighten engagement, cooperation within the classroom, and are of, I think, most benefit in all classes, but in those classes where discussion, question and answer are not really a bulwark of the class, math, science, for example, they really give the teachers an opportunity to engage kids at a very granular level. In our science department, our chemistry students this week will be conducting a lab that focuses on the colligative property on freezing point depression. And there will be a challenge on how low students can make salt water get before it freezes.
In layman's terms, the students are going to be making ice cream in chem class. I ask any of you, because this is not widely known at this point, I ask any of you who may happen to know a chemistry student to keep that under your hat until the end of the year. So that's where our chemistry students will be. In our art department, as Mr. King mentioned, our high school musicians will be traveling to Chancellor Livingston School to perform tomorrow. We're very excited about that opportunity, and we thank Mr. King for his hospitality. Our art department is proposing a field trip when the weather gets a little warmer to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in about a month. In the PE department, our physical education teachers are completing their unit on Chukball. That's spelled Tchoukball. It was invented in Switzerland in the early 60s. And as I've learned, the focus of Chukball is to provide an athletic competition in which the focus can remain on offensive strategies, on passing the ball, on teamwork and collaboration, and it really downplays the defensive role of the opposing team. So in the philosophy of the developer, his thinking was that many people may be turned off to athletics because there's in many sports there's friction, there's conflict, there's defense and offense. If you're watching the NCAA tournament, I think of West Virginia, and this is where some people may be turned off to sports. Our physical education department wants to put some activities in place that really focus on teamwork, that focus on skill building, and downplay some of the conflict elements of sports. So they have Chukball, there's Omnikin Ball, as you know, they have Project Adventure, which focus on team building and cooperation. So, to make a long story short, they're finishing up that unit, and as they finish up that unit, students perform the role of referees, scorekeepers, captains, coaches, and the physical education teachers obviously supervise, but it's really student-led and student-organized. A couple more updates. When we return from break, our high school and middle school faculty who are interested will participate in a workshop given by our library media specialist on Google Apps for Education. As you may recall, we had our superintendent's conference where a number of our faculty participated in a workshop in which they got a peek at some of the abilities and some of the advantages in Google Apps, so we're going to be able to delve a little deeper into that. The State Education Department has directed the high school to administer field tests this year in Common Core Algebra, Physics, and Global History and Geography, and we are to complete those field tests by the end of May. And finally, our program of studies has been finalized, will be posted on the website, has been shared with parents, with Mr. Kennitzer's support, cooperation, and shared with 8th graders, and that is a resource for students and families to both finalize their choices for next year and to begin exploring what they'll be able to take and what they would like to pursue in high school. Thank you.
Questions for Dr. Davenport?
I think so. Over here.
Okay.
As the parent of someone who just took the SAT, I realize this is sort of historic spring because it's the end of the SAT as we've known it, and there's going to be this new iteration of the exam. And I mean, this is kind of a question from out of left field for you, but I'm just wondering how that impacts what you're doing in college and career classes, guidance, and what your thoughts are about this new SAT that's coming down the pike.
Sure, I'll reserve my thoughts on the new SAT, but our department is really on point in terms of developments in standardized testing, and will certainly reference and have students feel prepared for the SAT. That being said, I've always thought that solid liberal arts education at the high school level is going to prepare students for any standardized test. So personally, I'm not a big fan of targeted tutoring and instruction. I think if we continue through things like our CETA planning process to do the best we can for our students in the high school, the standardized tests will take care of themselves. That being said, we want students to feel comfortable, prepared, and ready to go when the day comes. If you ask me what I think about the PSAT on a school day next year, I think the board meeting might go too late.
Inappropriate.
Tutor.
That's interesting, I didn't know that. So the PSAT is scheduled for a school day.
That's the plan.
So related then, my question to other standardized tests, you mentioned the state education department has required that the high school give field tests.
Yes.
For, I was going to write them down, but there were too many, for many subjects.
Yes,
at the high school level.
in mathematics, the Common Core algebra, in physics, and in global history and geography.
Right, so how many, like, hours?
Well, for the math and physics, that's a 1 period, so it's a 41-minute field test.
Right.
For the global history and geography, the state requires 2 hours, so that's 3 periods out of our school day.
Right.
For
So,
all 10th graders.
yeah. So, I'll just take this moment and just having to dovetail as well with the PSAT being on a school day, this sort of like wave of standardized testing and the impact on instruction, which is what we're here for. And, it's just, of course, in the past, I've said that I would think it could be appropriate for our school district to refuse to do field tests. I know that's not an opinion that many of my colleagues have shared over time, but, it's unfortunate with all the great things that you guys come up here and talk about and learn. The kids are doing so many creative, very active and engaged activities of all kinds in all fields, and then the state is focusing really on testing and coming up with numbers and taking away time for that. It's just really too bad. And I'm shocked about the PSAT. Actually, I'm really shocked about that. So I just think one more like warning signs about standardized tests that we have to be aware of. So thanks.
Diane, did you have your hand up?
Well, I was going to ask you about the PSAT. I mean, it's supposed to be possibly a one-year thing. Is that the impact on that just going to be for the students taking the test? I mean, because we have a place for them to take it away from everyone else, or how will the impact for the whole building?
Well, we have with the guidance department and the assistant principal, obviously with Mr. Kimpton, we haven't fleshed out what that might look like. Almost hoping that it'll go away, so it won't. But I really, I don't know how you provide an optimal testing environment for about 100 students and run middle school and high school on the same campus, so that the rest of the students have a meaningful educational experience.
Several hours. It's not.
Yes,
periods.
yes. I don't know how you do that. But we'll continue to think about it.
All right. Laura?
Just quick question. Thank you for sending out the program of studies. I received it this afternoon. Is the guidance department going to be letting students know during their conferencing that the 2 Project Lead the Way electives now carry a math and an art credit, because they're not listed that way in the rubric, the graph that you've got of all the, it's still business and technology.
Okay. The answer, yes, they will. The guidance department and I in our weekly meetings, go through changes to our requirements and credit offerings. This is also articulated in the text of the course description for both of those courses. So yes, it'll be. We'll make sure that students are aware of that option, which is an exciting option for our kids.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll move on to the 2015-16 Boces budget overview.
At our meeting last week, we spoke briefly about the upcoming Boces vote on April 21st, and also we had received a letter that was in your packets at our last meeting from Boces officials offering to come out to the component districts if desired and invited to give a presentation on their budget. And my understanding was that we left our last meeting with the idea that we would bring some information to you in print and via Mr. Burnell, and then the board could decide whether you wanted somebody to schlep out here and do a more elaborate presentation certainly with a different with a deeper knowledge base than either Tom or I would have, or whether the information here is sufficient for you. So I think it's worthwhile to have Tom give us an overview. You can read this information more deeply yourself, to the extent that Tom is not going to cover every single slide. He's not giving the Boces presentation, but this is the sum and substance of what they would present were they to come out here. And then you can let us know whether that's enough information, too much information, not enough information, and then we can respond accordingly. So, Tom, I'll turn it over to you for the Reader's Digest version.
Thank you. Dr. Heitman and Dr. Wesley are in Arlington right now giving this presentation. So, so I just want to go over just a couple things. Go to page 3. They have the same type of challenges we do in a lot of ways. You know, they're waiting on the governors with these initiatives and timing. They don't have to do a government efficiency plan, but they are helping coordinate it with all the other school districts. So they're our lead. They're really helping us to make sure and put this together. But they're also dealing with declining enrollments, just as most school districts are. Be specific to Boces. The big thing is retiree health insurance. They have expiring leases, the Beta Center and that, so that's a concern. Just put that on your radar. And of course, the district superintendent retired, so we're in the process of doing that. So the next thing I would like to do is go to, well, I guess we can jump ahead to page 5, just real quickly, just to show you that the administrative, operating, and the retiree health is driving just short of a 2% increase, 1.99%, which is what you will be voting upon on April 21st. And the next couple pages just gets into the detail of how the administrative budget works. This is, of course, for their administrative staff, their salaries, equipment, just as, you know, just as any other type of organization with their administration. We're responsible for that portion of it. The next one to go to is the retiree health. And this is very interesting if you take a look at it. And this is an issue that's been slowly increasing on the Boces. The Boces, as you know, if they're an active employee, like a special ed teacher, those figures are automatically included in the tuition rate. But once that teacher retires, they go into the administrative side of their budget. So programs aren't picking it up. So now the school districts together will pick it up.
And this is by SED accounting.
Yeah, this is nothing.
Not by their choice.
No, not by their choice at all. But one thing I do want to show to you is if you look under the proposed 2015-16, they're using $820,000 of fund balance, is basically what this is, a fund balance to
What did you?
This is on page 7.
Okay.
It's the second line down. We're transferred to retirees accrual. You see it going from $475,000 to $820,000. That's a $345,000, and that is basically like a fund balance account that they're helping to reduce the overall cost to keep it in line with the other years. But they're using up their fund balance. So just please be aware of this in years going out, that this number could rise. But it's kept this year pretty level. If we look onto the next page, you see the rentals for school districts. They rent the Beta site, but also they rent classrooms throughout the district. If they have a class in Red Hook or in Arlington, they're actually renting that classroom. It's a part of the whole thing. And they're transferring $600,000 to their capital fund account for what I assume will be eventually a building project. You can see they give a 3-year increase of 1.34% over the years. If we go on to page 10, and you'll see Rhinebeck is, well, it's alphabetical, but we're looking this year for the administrative portion is $150,386, okay, which is a 2.57% increase over the following year, previous year. A lot of that is driven just because of what's called Arwada. we actually had a tick up in our enrollment this year while most school districts went down. So we're gathering a little bit more of that percentage. So even though it went about 1.59% overall, ours is 2.57, but that's just as a result of our increase in our water, which is on the next page. You can look at all the different school districts if you want, but you can see populations up, down, all around. But yep.
Tom, can I just ask you, so Rhinebeck's share of BOCES administrative budget is based upon Rhinebeck's usage of BOCES programs?
No. No.
It's based on our resident-weighted average daily attendance.
Yes.
And how does that differ from?
That's a darn good question. I couldn't answer that for you, but I depended on it. You probably could.
You know, when we talk about programs, it's having so many people in the occupational ed program. We decide how many people are going there and that. So we get charged for you know, per person, basically, to attend these programs. But if it comes to the overall administration of it, it's a different philosophy. It's like everybody's getting this, everybody is, not based on the number of kids that are coming to us. This is now going to be based upon, it isn't enrollment exactly. It is a weighted daily average that is submitted. When you file the ST3, you're also filing attendance information for students, and then based on that information, in essence, what they said is our school district is 2.75% of the entire Dutchess County school districts. And that's the way it's been done for a long, long time. So, so the program, it's really based on the pupils you send there and the services you get versus the administration, which is just really basically your percentage based on, I want to say it's not exactly student enrollment, but it closely mirrors student enrollment.
Okay.
And if we, just one other thing going on to page 12, just to let you know, that last line, surplus deficit shared among participating district. And this is something that we get back every year. They go through. We always really paying them in advance. This is their budget. In essence, we're funding them 100%. And then at the end of the year, they take their actual expenditures and say, no, we didn't spend the entire budget amount. And then they return those funds to the school district. So, and that's in a revenue category. It's called refund from prior year expenses, BOCES. We budget $100,000. This year we happen to get back $120,000. So
what happens if they overspend?
That hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
But if they did, they would reassess us.
They'd bill us.
They'd bill us for that. I don't think that's ever been done. We've never come close. I think the smallest we've ever gotten in a refund was about $80,000. So typically it runs right around 100. And if we go on to the next page, it will show exactly we received $124,000 this year and then $394 in BOCES aid. And BOCES aid can fluctuate depending on the number of pupils you may have going there in the different things. So that can vary widely from one year to the next. And that can really skew your state aid figures too, because if you did huge amounts of purchases, such like computers and that will increase your state aid. So, you know, so you got to be very careful when you look at state aid runs and you say, oh, we got a bump in BOCES aid. Well, that's because we spent more there, not because we got a higher percentage. So just to let you know that. And just as a reminder on page 15, if you actually want to get the full, you know, the full budget hearing and annual meeting, they're going to have it April 8th at Boces at 7 o'clock. I do think they have a satellite in...
They used to use Red Hook.
There is one in Red Hook.
But, okay.
That letter that you left for us this evening.
Okay. So, and then on April 21st, it's the vote on the administrative budget and the BOCES board members. So, any questions? And if I don't know it, I can get back to Dr. Wesley.
Yeah, thanks for doing that. And you know, it was useful that they gave us this document. You know, their administrative budget is just what we vote on, and it's, you know, relatively straightforward. But I would say, like, I'm wondering if maybe on our behalf you could contact them and ask them sort of what their fund balance is right now. Just, you know, if we should have any concerns about their, you know, we think about our, how we're managing under tax cap and with not enough state aid. And, you know, I appreciate them trying to give us thorough documentation. Over the years, we've had some concerns, or Boces has had some issues, particularly there was the tech program that was looked into by the Attorney General and sort of the quality of some of the programs. But I see, like going forward, they could be doing a lot of really positive things. And this is one of them informing us. But if there's some issues around, long-term sustaining this budget, it might just be to get there, to get it, and then you could just share it with us.
Okay, I'll see what I can do.
we can and we will ask and get that figure, but I don't think it'll come as a surprise, because I've heard it mentioned at several meetings that I've attended over the last several years, and then it's just being quite frank, they're concerned with using up so much of their accrual, like other school districts are concerned about using up their fund balance, because you tend, in these days, you tend to use it more quickly than you're building it up. Times are different now. We all know that. And in theory, at some point in the down the road, they'll hit a wall. I mean, they'll run out of accrual, and then they won't be able to keep that administrative budget at 1.9%. I mean, again, that's not telling tales out of school, as it were. That's just the reality of it. They know it. How many more years can they go using accrual to offset that? That's a good question. I don't know that it's imminent, like this is the last year, so next year the percentage is going to be an 8% increase. But I would say soon, and just so everybody knows, especially the trustees who are new to the board, all of the school districts in the Boces unit, all the component districts vote, and if they don't get a majority of school districts approve their administrative budget, then they have to live on what it was this year. I mean, they're on a very strict contingency budget, so as you can see from the charts that are in your packet, if that were to happen, they'd have to, so what's there that they could cut? They can't cut retiree health insurance because they've already contractually committed to that, as do we, so they would probably be cutting back administrators, for example. If you had to make up X $100,000, they're going to have to, there'll be some deep cuts in the administration of that organization. So, it may not be all that far out, but we'll get the exact number for you.
And I want to do it in the spirit of, I think that, we want to see Boces to be strong and successful, and they have served many of our students and many of our students well over the years, and they can kind of be like this forgotten stepchild because, around this table we have never had anyone from our district who has served on the Boces board for a totally understandable reason, including myself, but just it's a lot of work that people at Boces are doing and serving a lot of different populations with a lot of different needs. And, the governor might cavalierly talk about shared services. Boces has organized that for decades. And, I want to see them strong. So that information is more that I think we should be attuned to the future of Boces in a very under constrained financial picture.
Yeah, I think I would agree with what you just said, and I would also point out that there are a number of services that we get from Boces that we flat out would not be able to provide to our students if they were to, using an extreme case, if they were to cease to exist. All of the occupational education programs, we would not be able to replicate them here. It would be just exorbitantly expensive for us to have those programs that we send our kids to. So it would be a real loss for the students that we have who access those programs, and we'd not be able to bring them in-house. So we do have a vested interest in their being successful going into the future.
All right. Any other questions or comments? We'll move on to board committee reports. Start with personnel.
The details of the personnel minutes would be discussed in executive session. The topics that were covered were staff salaries, contract negotiations with the Administrators Association, and changes for the evaluation form used for the superintendent.
Questions? Okay. Policy committee.
That's awesome. They're all me.
They're all you, I realize.
You might as well just keep going.
They're all me. The first thing the policy committee did was look at the changes that we made to the homework policy. Joe's going to have the administrators look at that, and then that should be coming back to the board. The second thing that we discussed was a proposed policy on religious exemptions for immunizations. The committee discussed this at length. Currently under the law, there's no exemptions for philosophical, political, scientific, or sociological objections. There's medical and there's religious. And it's very specific that it has to be a sincere religious belief. The committee is not looking to make any change for the medical exemption, but would like to consider a policy on the religious exemption as far as what would be required of a policy like that, what documentation. We'd obviously have to consult with our legal and do some more work on that. It's just we're looking for if this is something that the full board is interested in pursuing. So do you want to discuss that first now before I continue?
Let me just add to that we are we're talking also about having a single decision maker for all of those decisions. So if you recall, when the principals spoke about that a couple of board meetings ago, each principal in the building makes the determination. Most of those determinations are made by Brett King because most of the time those exemption requests come through when a child enters school, but occasionally one of the other principals may also make that, have an exemption request made when a child enters after elementary school. So part of what we talked about is bringing all that decision making under the umbrella of a single decision maker.
Question?
Yeah, so I guess I'd recommend, unless you already have sort of running it by the principals.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't
what
start
they
any of the
think of-
legwork
okay.
on this at all. We
Right.
just, if there's no interest in the board to
Right.
pursue it, we wouldn't pursue it.
So that would be one thing, just see what they have to say about this. And also, I guess I'm not perceiving that there's a problem, so one part of me feels like if there's not like a problem with the way the process has been working, and maybe you find that out through the principals, then why mess with it? So, just a thought.
Lisa?
I mean, what we talked about in the meeting was not that we have a problem today in Rhinebeck, but that nationally there is an issue about significant numbers of people in various parts of the country who are, for a variety of reasons, not vaccinating their children. And the impact that can have on the population. The Disneyland event of a couple of months ago was a galvanic point nationally, and then we had a little bit of a taste of that with the college student who created a scare in this area when he came up and he was ill and unvaccinated. So our thought in turning to this is not that we have a problem today that has to be dealt with, but we want to have a policy in place that we feel gives us a firmer foundation for how these decisions are made than we feel like we have now, to avoid potential problems. You can't know if there's ever going to be a problem. You can only take whatever precautions you think might prevent one. And that's why engendered this discussion in the first place.
Peter?
I'm in favor of the group certainly consulting with the principals and gaining a sense from them of any insight they can share with you about how the current policy works, and if they have suggestions for precisely the kind of questions you're raising here. I think that would be really helpful. I'd be in favor of seeing that, and having just sort of experienced the disruptions that can take place in terms of instruction, public health concerns, and it's kind of surprising how much is involved when you begin to grapple even with a single student. So I think it's worth looking into. Sort of, I don't know what you'll recommend, but gathering that information seems prudent.
Also the talking with legal, because what you're talking about is a religious exemption, and
Right.
absolutely,
Right.
have to be very careful. So.
That's right.
All right.
Okay.
Anything else for policy?
I have to finish.
Oh, sorry.
Just get warmed up.
Not to rush you, right?
So after that, the committee continued on the review of all the district policies. We're looking at the policy 4810, which is the approach to instruction, just to possibly clarify what speakers, specifically candidates for public office, could bring into the classroom or not. Joe's going to look to make a regulation. We're not sure if it should be a change to the policy or a regulation, but the committee's looking at that. The next several policies, there were no change, and then there's a few at the bottom that we just have to clarify whether or not they're already in some of our other policies.
I would just point out, going back to the first topic that you raised, that I did broach this issue with the administrators, I think a meeting, last meeting or the meeting before. You recall that homework policy is about 5 lines of text, and suffice to say, we had a very spirited discussion about what I thought was going to be pretty much a 2-minute discussion and a slam dunk. So that's going to take more than a couple more meetings to vet that. I mean, we will. They had some great ideas. I'm not being critical at all, and certainly you want your administrators' input, especially on a policy like that. But I think we felt this will be easy. A couple of word changes, a couple of strike-throughs, piece of cake. But I mean, this is going to turn into a project for the administrators. So stay tuned.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We're putting our teaching hat back on.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good.
Dust it off.
Anything else for policy? Okay. School start time.
So me.
Wow.
They really are all me.
Change seats.
It was my month. So the school start committee met. Prior to the meeting, we had gotten some more research that we were able to look at and trying to answer the question about how much time later and what that matters. And what the research showed was that any amount of time later, there's a benefit to. The longer you go, the more the benefit, but there is a benefit to any amount of time. So the committee, just to reiterate, the committee is going to look at 4 options. One is flip-flopping the elementary and the secondary. The second is a single trip, which all the schools would be going on approximately the same start time, and all the students riding the same bus, K through 12. The third option would be a similar bus schedule that we have now, just possibly pushing the high school and the middle school about 30 minutes later. And then the last thing would be no change at all. So Tom is working with the bus company to try to narrow down and get the information about the buses, whether or not it's possible to have the runs happen, what the cost would be for the single trip, if we added monitors, and if we added late buses. So still working on getting that information back so that we can finish up some of the transportation questions. along with busing, I think this came up in the budget workshop, we're going to be optimizing some of the buses, which is maximizing the number of students that are assigned to a bus, which was in the finance needs also, which would be, say for next year, it would all be saving a run that we have by doing that. We did talk a little bit about the miles and what's required in busing students. The law requires grades 7 through 12 to be picked up from 3 miles away from the school, and K through 6 students 2 miles. Currently, we pick up K through 5 any distance, whether they live right next to the school, any distance we pick them up, and 6 through 12, 1 mile, with a few exceptions, based on some of the roads that we have. If any change were to be made to the mileage, that has to be voted on by the public. So we just talked about that as just some of the possibilities when we're looking at buses, but just that they're options. And then we started to put together a timeline for the committee and what it might look like going forward. We anticipate to have 2 or 3 more meetings for us to wrap up all the information that we're still gathering and to report back to the board on that. We hope to maybe at the end of May 26th, possibly have a hearing where we could present all these options and all the findings to the public. That would be like a special hearing. And then if there were any type of board action, that would be in one of the June meetings, possibly. But all of this would be contingent on gathering all this information and being able to still put it together. And that would just be our hope, just to let the public know where we're at in this procedure, in this process.
Questions? No, I have some, but go ahead.
Well, I think, well, maybe you want to go first, because I would probably just be echoing some of what you
Okay. Well, my questions mainly relate to the timeline that you've proposed. And it seems to me very, very aggressive. I've been reading a lot of the research that you forwarded over to us, and many of the school systems that have implemented a later start time took as much as 2 years to make a decision and implement it. So I'm just wondering, you mentioned a public hearing in May. Is there any proposal to meet with, parent groups, in the schools? Because my concern is that, this is a community issue. It's not just, I understand that we were doing this for the health and wellness of our students, but it's really a community concern. We know there's traffic issues that would have to be at least investigated. There may be families that have child care concerns about before or after school if the time has changed. So I'm concerned that we don't want to rush into it. We want to make sure we communicate with everybody what the plan is or the proposal is, and have them have an opportunity to weigh in on it before we make any decisions.
Definitely. I know one thing, when we talked back in the beginning, I think we said publicly, we'd hope to have at least the committee's recommendation by the end of this year. Some of the different options are more disruptive than others, and I don't think the committee is saying necessarily that anything could start in September, but possibly. Some are not. If you look at like the half-hour shift, for instance, it's not changing the buses. It's not as big of a disruption. We have more meetings where we'll talk about, possibility of meeting with the different groups. The hearing was to get the information out to the public, and we're hoping to maybe have some presenters or all the information, everything that we have, that we could lay it out then to show the public. But, this isn't like a hard and fast rule that this, there's going to be a vote or anything on a certain day. It's just kind of to let everybody know where we're at, so everybody, the people at home that are following along with this committee to see, they can kind of get a sense of where we're at. And the board can decide when the committee's finished its work where they want to go from there.
Okay.
I just want to add that this was very much like a kind of a hypothetical possible timeline depending on which of these options, if any, right? Because one of the options is to do nothing and to keep the status.
Yeah, we can make that work.
And also in response to, we have kind of had a steady, small but steady series of queries from people asking where we're at. So I think in a way our conversation in the last group was to think about, well, we don't know exactly what the group would even recommend, but what might a possible timeline be? And a lot of that was built in response to things we were told by people who, had ideas about the calendar and where things might have to happen in order to communicate effectively. And it's not, I just want to reiterate what Diane is saying, that it was very much a kind of hypothetical.
Okay.
Also, I would add that we have, through the building principals, whom we've met with once or twice, at least during the course of the year thus far, and we had asked them early on in the process to be talking to their building level planning teams, which include teachers and parents, to raise the issues, to solicit questions and concerns, and when they've come to meet with us, they have they have brought those concerns. Now, granted, those are relatively small groups, but the process has not been without some level of input from the parents and the teachers in our 3 buildings. And I think where the rubber's going to meet the road is which recommendation the committee ultimately comes down on, and we're not there yet, and we hope to be there by the end of this year. We may not be, but if we are, I think we'd be able to at least present what we've learned. This has been essentially a study group for the bulk of the year thus far, and as it should be. We also talked in terms of process about once we find out the financial feasibility, with Tom's input in working with TransFinder and our bus company, we may find that the finances knock out 1, 2, or maybe all of these options. So, end the story. See you next time around. We may find out that one or more of these is financially feasible. We're following what we feel has been the board's lead to come up with something that's cost neutral. So that's in the back of our minds as we're studying. We also, anything that's financially feasible, we want to make sure that we develop a list of pros and cons, because something may be financially feasible, but the cons may far outweigh the pros, so why go down that road? So I mean, that's the work we still have to do. I don't think it's overwhelming. It's not. We're not going to have it done in one meeting. Hopefully, we'll have it done by the end of the year. Then we'll see where we go. Okay. Could be a moot point. They may not even be a need for community meetings if we wind up saying, you know what, none of these is cost neutral, so we hit a wall.
But even if the committee recommends to do nothing, we want to be able to, present to the public all the options and all the research. And the May date seemed like a good date. It was far enough along, but not into the busy month of June or the summer when people are gone. So we really, that's how that came about.
Okay. All right. Deirdre?
So I'll just echo a little bit. I think that if you are going to make a recommendation for change, then we have to have multiple opportunities for parents to have input. So it was that timeline, and I realize it was just sort of a preliminary thing, but between the 26th and June to take action, I think we need more time to just get input, unless, and different formats too, like use the website to have people be able to comment, via email, perhaps, if any changes is going to be recommended. And if you are find yourselves narrowing into the least, the the step that's the least disruptive, other than just keeping it status quo, about moving things up, you know, if that's the direction you think you're going in, then I think, you know, the earlier that we can get some feedback to see how feasible it is, then the better. Because that was just the biggest complaint the last time, was people felt like a change was being recommended at a meeting that was their first opportunity to communicate what they felt. That was parents, and I wouldn't want to see that replicated. People were really upset about that. Now, it was a miscommunication. I think people felt like, oh my God, this is happening, and I'm just getting to like comment on it. I know that's not your intention, but we need to make that perfectly clear.
Okay. Any more comments or concerns on the...
And thanks for doing all this work, by the way.
School start time. All right. Finance Committee? Diane?
Pretty much everything in the Finance Committee was discussed at Saturday's workshop. I will just highlight a few things. The fourth draft of the budget puts the district at about just short of $300,000 below the tax levy limit. What else?
That's above the tax.
Above, I'm sorry. Oh, gosh,
Yeah, we
sorry.
should be so...
If only it was
Wishful
below.
thinking on my part. The committee looked at the proposed cut list that was discussed in detail at the workshop on Saturday, and that was recorded, right? So people can view that, right? The technology plan C, we looked at that also, which isn't really different than the B plan. It just lists the devices that they would use in the middle school, and so it has a more accurate cost. The cost is just about the same as the Plan B. It does also make changes to the computer lab in the middle school to upgrade that, which would mean adjusting the curriculum and changing the classes in the middle school a little bit. And taken out of the Plan C was the interactive projectors, which hopefully the money from the smart monies could be used to purchase those, as that's a one-time money that we get. So that was taken out of our plan.
Okay. Questions for finance?
Can we make you the permanent secretary for all board committees?
I think I'm done for a while.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll move on to Board of Education member email addresses.
Okay, so one of the benefits of our going to well, no.
Office 365.
Office, thank you. Office 365, yeah. That's the way I said. And one of the benefits of going to Office 365, in addition to allowing our students in grades K through 12 to have district supported, sponsored, regulated email capability, is that we have that same capability for not only our teachers, but also, in fact, I think there are exactly 7 remaining licenses. Given some of the discussion in the media, in the larger world, about people using their own servers, accounts, etc., we thought that, not because of that reason, but because they're available to us at no additional cost, we thought that, Steve thought that we ought to float with the board your interest in having a school district sponsored email account for board business. So it's really your call. I mean, there's no law that requires us to do that, but if you, as a group, feel it would be something that would be beneficial to separate your private personal email communications from your board level email communications, we can set you up in literally no time. I would suggest if we're going to do that, that we all do that, and if we're not all in, then let's just keep going down the road we've been going down. But we had that capability yesterday, months ago actually, but since we're rolling these out for our students after we come back from spring break, we thought this was a good time to ascertain your interest in going down that road.
Lisa?
I think it's an excellent idea. I'm all for it. I know that there was a comment raised when you first sent us the memo about this, about how we would, about the need for board members to check their school account emails frequently in order to make sure that they were picking up on all the emails. I think that actually that might be less daunting than it may seem at first, because since most of the emails flow out of communications from you or Tom in the first instance, and you already communicate with us by email to some extent anyway, at least until, through at some sort of a break-in period, you could just send a blast email to the board members saying, check your email account, check your RCSD email account for communication regarding the board.
I'm sure we could do something that would be helpful for you.
Right.
We could send it to both email addresses and then wean you off your
Right.
personal email. I mean, we could do a number of different things, sure.
But I think overall it's a great idea.
Yeah, I just wanted to make people aware. I don't think twice about it. I have a personal email account at home. I have my school account here. I can access them both at home and at school, and I'm just used to checking both. It's second nature to me. But if you only have one email account and you're kind of in the habit of opening your email and your board emails and your personal emails are there, it's just going to be I wasn't implying that this would be a deal breaker. I think everybody would adjust fairly quickly, but it will be an adjustment of some sort, but not a big deal. And those of you, and I know some of you, use one personal email account for board stuff and another email account for either work stuff or private stuff, then I don't know that you'll see much difference at all. You'll just have a different email address to use.
Usually.
How much memory or storage would there be in these accounts? It would be great because it'd be a way to really archive all of our documents that we, sort of need to hang on to.
Well, I think this is cloud-based, right?
Yeah.
So
There is no...
yeah. I mean, even when we weren't cloud-based, we had to do we had to do some culling of memory, and I think who was it besides me? I was one of the biggest abusers.
Dr. Davenport was the big one.
Dr. Davenport, Mr. Krebs, and I were the biggest abusers of archiving stuff, and we still had enough headroom. This gives us that much more. So I really don't see it's.
He never deletes any emails anymore. They're all saved.
Just for the fact that my one email account I have now is continually almost going over the quota because of all of this kinds of syllables. It'd be a godsend to me. Thank you.
One of the things I'll check with Steve too is to see if a message, when you receive a message into a Rhinebeck Central School District account, is there a way to possibly forward an email to your personal account to say, you got a message? Not to forward the whole message, just to say, you have
Just to ping you.
Just, I want to see if that can be done. I don't know.
Right.
I know you could forward the whole thing.
That defeats the purpose.
That defeats the whole purpose. So I want to see if it can just send a message and say, you have a message in, your RCSD account.
While we're talking about technological capability, since a number of us, many of us have smartphones and are not necessarily tethered to our desks all the time, is there any possibility for an email app that we could access remotely?
Yeah. You download, I think it's OWA, that's what I...
Yeah, Michelle did.
Yeah, it's a free, it's a free app.
I just gave it to Michelle.
The app's a little, I will say the app's a little clunky, but better than not having it.
It's easy to switch between one account and the
Yes.
other. It's very simple to do.
Yeah, we can...
It will be dependent upon your phone, too. I mean, you know.
Diane, sorry.
Diane?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think might take some adjustment, but it's the right thing to do. And when I went to the NUSPA conference, I actually went to one of the sessions I went to, this came up, and it was recommended that board members have a school email, and that it's beneficial if there's ever an issue, then they don't have to take your home computer or something like that. But it's...
Well, what's that?
It's like if everything's separate, I mean, that was their, it was lawyers, and that was their, you know, when people ask them why, but they just said it's a beneficial thing to do anyway.
So then will we do like the governor and just
Every 90
discard
days.
Every 90 days, you're done.
No, I have plenty of room.
Oh, it's good for the goose, it's good for the
Oh, right,
game.
I guess we wouldn't do that.
Laura?
I'm in favor. Let's go.
So I'm hearing everybody say, yeah, do it. So we'll give Steve that word. Your email address will be your first name dot your last name at rhinebeckcsd.org. We'll send you an email to your old email address letting you know when your account's live. I mean, I would imagine it may be tomorrow or the next day, depending on whether Steve has the...
Login instructions.
Yeah, and all the setup that we need.
Yeah. I mean, it's really pretty intuitive. I don't think you'll have a problem with it. So, all right, we'll move forward with that. Great. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Moving on to good news. Does anyone have good news?
There was a lot of good news.
Deirdre.
I have some good news. Going back to what John Chemnitzer reported on with the Artisan Action Day, and really thinking more broadly about how building level planning teams, we've brought them up in a number of different ways tonight. The work they've done in terms of trying to process questions coming from the school start time committee, the way in which the class rank discussions kind of percolated and gathered information and then kind of were reported out to different groups, and the way in which they function to make things like Top Chef happen or Artisan Action Day. They're really a wonderful sort of point of connection between different parts of our school community. I don't know how visible it is necessarily. I remember when I first came here and I heard this BLPG, what does it even mean? You know, it sounded so mysterious and kind of abstract, but it's actually a really wonderful continuing part of that legacy. I remember, Deirdre, you've talked about shared decision making, and it's something I think that's precious in our district. And you know, it may not be the language that the state is using any longer in terms of its educational philosophy, but it's a great and I think highly effective kind of engine for making things happen in our schools. So I'm just grateful for their existence and the kind of work that goes on in those groups of teachers, administrators, and parents working together to make great things happen.
Yeah, very good. Pauline?
Other good news? Okay. Old business. Diane?
I have old business. We talked a couple meetings ago about the upcoming school board election and the need for, if anyone's going to continue to run, and we have 2 positions that are open, and I did make my decision that I will be running again.
Okay.
Great.
Just a reminder that petitions are due no later than April 20th. You don't have to wait that long.
5 o'clock.
But that's, don't make me that nervous, okay? But that's the time frame. I looked it up this morning just to be sure.
All right.
That place where you used to go.
You could hand them in at a board meeting. She's at every board meeting, so we'll be here on April 14th, just in case.
Okay. All right. Other old business? All right. We have another opportunity for public comment. Is there any member of the public wishing to make a comment? If they could just step forward, give your name and speak in front of the mic so the people on YouTube can hear what you're saying.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Larson, a Rhinebeck senior. I just have 2 quick questions. I would like to address the starting later issue and just bring up the issue of sports and clubs and after-school activities as how we would go about like the time frame for them, considering that it's already as late as it is, and trying to get the homework load since it seems to be becoming more and more of a workload for us as the years progress, and how that would occur.
Would anyone from the ad hoc committee?
I can't answer that question.
Just basically.
Do you want to take a shot at it?
Well, so in fact, that's one of the hugest things that we've been talking about in this committee, and how to have minimal disruption to the after-school program and preserve, for instance, in the elementary school, the early morning electives, which are fantastic, and many, many students take advantage of both of those. So that's one reason why it was very important to talk to the athletic director about how schedules might reflect and kind of be slightly modified to take advantage of natural light, and when contests would happen, and really thinking at this kind of granular level about how it would impact practices and games. So I don't see this committee honestly coming forward with any kind of recommendation that is going to damage what's so great about those programs. And your anxieties and fears, I think, are shared by us. We don't want to see any of that missed.
I mean, before when we talked about a list of pros and cons for each of the possible ways to go, that's certainly a pro for the option where we would keep the same configuration of buses but start a little later. We've talked to Mr. Boucher, and he's told us that he feels that say having the high school go, instead of getting out at 2:16, starting at 8 o'clock and getting out at 2:45 instead of 7:30 and 2:16, he would still be able to manage scheduling athletic contests in particular. And he thought he could live within that parameter, that a longer period of time would create some difficulties that you're referring to. So that's definitely a pro for that particular option. There are other cons and pros to all the options, but you're right, we've been spending a lot of time being concerned about making sure we accommodate that. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, because I know you only need about 45 minutes of practice to be counted as such a practice. Mm-hmm. But I know to build up skills and be better as a team, you need more than that. So I understand, like, we could probably do it at that time frame, but our skill level as a sports team and a school, as a district, would probably fall behind from the rest.
Yeah, well, I don't think the board, my sense is the board wouldn't go with an option that was going to impair the skill level of our students in any way. So, but it's important that you're mentioning that to us as we're still studying this issue.
And one other thing I would say is that a lot of other school districts around our area are having these same conversations. So, I think we're not alone in terms of thinking through the kind of delicate ecology of, what happens before and after and during the school day. And so in a sense, I'm sure we're going to keep in touch with those developments as well.
You had another question?
Yeah, my other question was probably something that no one has really thought about lately. But the library has been kicking out students from study hall while classes from like English classes or history classes are using the computers in the computer lab, or in the library, when we have 2 functioning computer labs that are mostly empty during the day, and I know you cannot get into them without a teacher present. So my question would be if we could probably get the classes that are trying to use the computers in the library to move to the computer labs, because a lot of students who are coming from study hall or just have a free period that want to get away from all the noise come into the library, but when a class is in here, it's noisy as it is with a class in here, and most of the kids are already trying to get away from the noise, so just having the noise in the library doesn't help. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Can I ask you a question? Have you brought this concern to Dr. Davenport yet?
I have mentioned it while mentioning other issues as well, but I haven't heard any answers.
Well, I'll make sure I ask him about that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Oh, no, I mean, partly I just want to say thank you for being here because it is so delightful to hear from a student, and it's a reminder in terms of that school start time when we're talking about communicating early enough, and it really is sort of a failing that we don't think, oh, how are we getting feedback from students? So I would encourage that as being part of some schedule or plan is how do we, because I think the points that you raised, for example, you get home very late from a competition and you have to do homework, is that a concern that a lot of students share? Maybe, not just can you play the game and what time it is, but what time is it when you get home? So,
well, I think your questions have pointed up part of our struggle with this topic, that it's probably going to come down to a matter of priorities. What do you value more? And it may be different from you than from the student sitting on this side of you or the student sitting on that side of you, which makes it even more complex. But, and this is a rhetorical question, so don't answer it, but, which do you value more, sleeping a half an hour later in the morning or having more time at the end of the day to get your homework done? And one thing may actually bump into the other one. So it's a complex issue, and thank you for adding your voice to the conversation. We really appreciate it.
All right. Any other public comments? Okay. I'll move on to other. Does anyone have any other? I do have one myself. All right, so I'll just mention, as you know, I sent an email around yesterday about the school start time minutes. And as I was writing that, I received an email from one of our residents on Knollwood Road. It was addressed to myself and Mayor Tortorella of the Village of Rhinebeck concerning speeding on Knollwood Road. Apparently he has a concern that not only perhaps parents or people in the neighborhood, but also school buses and other vehicles are speeding on Knollwood. And he's asked us to look into the issue, myself and Mayor Tortorella, and so I've passed the information on to Joe and Tom, and they're going to be trying to address that through the bus company as well, with putting out some communications in our school newsletters. So.
Yes, we already started, actually. We had an administrative meeting today, and Tom has already made some calls, some investigatory and some cautionary. Tom and I plan to put together some kind of communication that we can post on our website, email blast home. I plan to tweet on a daily basis the people who are caught speeding and given citations. No, just kidding. No, I wouldn't be doing that unless I could take a selfie, because it could be me. But we'll try to avoid that. But we've already started the ball rolling on that, and you'll be hearing more about this through the various types of media that we have access to as a school district. And it's not just Chancellor either. We shared that with our principals over here and with all of our managers. Just say, just look inward and look at your staffs, and let's make sure we're not the offenders to that. And more than likely, there are people outside of our organization over which we have no control. But we'll do whatever we can to get the word out. And
this actually raises a question that I've had in my mind for some time and has never kind of risen to the surface. But the limit on Knollwood around CLS is 15 miles an hour, and that's the case all the time. And the same thing is true on North Road. From the stop sign to the driveway of the school. the, you know, the campus.
North Park Road?
North Park Road,
Okay.
sorry. It's not clear to me, because I don't think either one of those are state roads, where those restrictions came from and why they are 15 and why they're not limited to school hours or school days. I know there are places in, you know, not too far away from us where there are limitations on the area in which, not just the area in which the slower speed limit is, but also the times of the day in which you have to observe the reduced limit. So my impression has been for a long time that people who speed are often doing it because it seems a little crazy to be driving 15 miles an hour past CLS on a Saturday morning when there's nobody there. That doesn't excuse people who are driving 30 miles an hour past CLS on a Monday morning. But, you know, is there a more nuanced response to this than the one that, you know, simply making everybody drive 15 miles an hour there all the time?
Well, I would only say that the verbiage in the letter calls out times that are during the school day. So this individual is not saying the speeding on Saturday and Sunday are making me crazy. This person is, I'm seeing cars speeding before the start of the school day, at drop-off, at pickup. So it's obviously a school-related problem. I can't even respond to why it isn't specific to school hours. I know I've seen school speed limit signs in other places where it says, you know, school days between this and this. I don't know why that doesn't exist, and it's been like that for as long as I can remember, so I haven't been here when it changed from something to something, but it is clear from that, to me, from that letter, taking that letter at face value, that these are things that are happening on the way to school and before school, on the way to school, on the way from school and after school, when kids are around, walking to school, et cetera, et cetera. So,
fair enough.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I mean, my recollection is there was some, like some traffic study, maybe we were doing it or the village was doing it around Chancellor a few years ago, and that in fact it's at drop-off and pickup, and the irony is it's because people are late, parents are late to drop off or pick up their school, and then they're speeding, which is dangerous. So I think the problem has previously been identified at times as directly related to parents in school. So I'm sure that Mayor Tortorella is giving this some thought, but you know, when a cop car is posted near the school at those drop-off times and pickup times, and a few tickets are handed out, that might give parents second thought about that. You know, at North Road with all the teenagers, often on the other side, there has been a police officer there to monitor people stopping at the stop sign. Maybe it's not our new drivers that are the biggest scofflaws, but the
old drivers.
The old drivers.
So I'll just mention that Mayor Tortorella did respond to the individual, and he's promised to look into it from the village perspective, so hopefully more to come on that. But at least we can address it, you know, as much as we can control.
We will.
So.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Any other? Okay. So we'll move on to action items. Is there anyone who would like to remove anything from the consent agenda? All right. Seeing none, may I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
By Deirdre?
Second.
Second by Lisa. All those in favor? It's unanimous. That motion passes. We have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to accept the donation of books to BMS teachers and the BMS RHS library as a result of the 2014-15 PTSO book fair in the total amount of $1,129.27 from the Rhinebeck PTSO as stipulated.
So moved.
By Deirdre.
Second.
By Lisa. Any discussion?
Great work on behalf of the parents involved with that, and very generous of the PTSO a very successful book fair.
All right, all those in favor? That's unanimous, that motion passes. We have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the appointment of Hadass Lieberman as a long-term substitute in the position of social worker at Chancellor Livingston Elementary School on or about April 6, 2015, through the conclusion of the 2014-15 school year on June 25, 2015, at the pleasure of the board at the substitute salary of Step 1 MA plus 2, $57,403 prorated, in accordance with the 2014-15 RTA salary schedule. This appointment is to fill the vacancy created by the leave of absence granted to Morgan Lobruto, social worker at the Chancellor Livingston Elementary School.
So moved.
By Deirdre.
Second.
Second by Lisa. Discussion?
Is there going to be any provision for any overlap at all? Or?
Yeah, I think in the letter from Brett, there's a request for, I think, 3 days, no more than 3 days of overlap.
Okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous, that motion passes. I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to adopt the proposed Rhinebeck Central School District 2015-16 school calendar.
I'd like to move that we table that discussion.
Well, I think we have
Are we ready to vote?
to move it and
Move it
make
and
the
then
motion
motion
and
to
second
table.
it and then table.
Okay, so second it. Moving it. You move it?
So you move, I second.
Okay, I'll move it.
Okay.
Second.
It's on the table.
It's on the table. I'm going to move to
Table.
keep it there on the table.
Second.
Can we
Okay.
have discussion because of tabling? The tabling discussion?
I mean, why you're tabling it?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So I just want to, for the just record, point out that the superintendent has communicated to the RTA leadership for weeks about the calendar and the challenges of the calendar for the 15-16 school year, and it, there seemed to be an understanding that was previously how it's always worked year after year, that it was with the leadership of the Teachers Association, and that the Teachers Association was satisfied with that calendar, but it's only come to our attention today that many of the teachers were not aware of the challenges of the calendar and the brief spring vacation due to the contractual and just the way the calendar falls. So we're tabling it because we're going to give the Teachers Association more time to consider a different option or various options. But I just want to thank Joe for having, worked hard for weeks to try to communicate what are some just very difficult issues related to where Labor Day falls and what our contract says about working for Labor Day. So, through no fault of the administration, we'll have to give this more time.
Okay. All those in favor of tabling? It's unanimous, that motion passes. Motion to table. I may have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve additional non-unit salaries for 2014-15 effective July 1st, 2014.
So moved.
By Deirdre.
Second.
Second by Lisa. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous, that motion passes. I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve an additional mentor for the 2014-15 school year effective March 10th, 2015. See attached.
So moved.
By Deirdre.
Second.
By Lisa. Any discussion? Deirdre?
I just want to thank you, Joe, for including in the information section of our packet information about how the mentorship program is conceived and executed. It's extraordinarily thoughtful, and it was really quite enlightening for us to get a glimpse into that. So thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay. All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the appointment of additional advisors for the Rhinebeck High School for the 2014-15 school year, effective as noted. See attached.
So moved.
By Deirdre.
Second.
By Lisa. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the list of additional emergency conditional substitute teachers and non-instructional staff for the 2014-15 school year.
So moved.
By Deirdre.
Second.
By Lisa. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve additional spring coaches for the 2015-16 school year. Crew, novice, Kenneth Anderson, $3,070. Lacrosse, varsity, defense, Ryan Edson, $3,804. Baseball varsity assistant Jeff Cassens, volunteer. JV assistant Terry Cunningham, volunteer. JV assistant Mike DiNatale, volunteer. Softball modified assistant Henry Frischknecht, volunteer.
So moved?
By Deirdre?
Second.
By Lisa. Any discussion?
I'd just like to comment and thanks to these community members and Mr. Frischknecht for volunteering their time to help out with our sports program. It's great.
Diane?
Yeah, I just want to say the same thing. I mean, they'll be giving a lot of hours to our athletes, and it's great to see so many volunteers.
All right, anyone else? All those in favor? That's unanimous, that motion passes. I have a motion to move into executive session for the purpose of discussion of the employment history of particular persons.
So moved?
By Deirdre?
Second.
By Lisa. All those in favor? That's unanimous, that motion passes. We're moving into executive session.